I am Dr. Leana, and what I am about to share with you today could be the most important thing you hear this year, especially if you are over 60 and you take supplements every single morning thinking you are protecting yourself. Because here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody is talking about. Some of the pills sitting in your cabinet right now, the ones you bought to stay healthy, to protect your heart, to keep your bones strong, to stay sharp, some of those very pills may be quietly working against you. Not in a dramatic way, not overnight, but slowly, consistently, silently, in a way that mimics aging so perfectly that most people never once suspect their supplements. And by the time you finish watching this, you will never look at your supplement shelf the same way again. Let me start by asking you something honest. How many supplements did you take this morning? 1? 3? Maybe you have a whole little lineup. A multivitamin, something for your joints, something for your heart, maybe an herbal blend a friend recommended. And each one felt like a good decision, right? Each one had a reason behind it. That is exactly the problem. Because the danger after 60 is not usually one bad supplement. It is the quiet, invisible accumulation of decisions that each seem perfectly reasonable on their own. But before we get there, you need to understand something fundamental. Something that changes the entire equation after the age of 60, and that most doctors never fully explain to their patients. Your body has changed, not in the way people think. Not simply weaker, not simply slower. It has changed in how it processes everything that enters it. And once you truly understand this, everything about your supplement routine will look different. Here's the core of it. Your liver and your kidneys are your body's master filtration systems. They process everything, and food, medications, supplements, environmental toxins. Everything moves through these organs. And for decades, they have been doing this work beautifully. But after 60, their efficiency quietly declines. Not dramatically. Not in a way that shows up obviously. But measurably, consistently, undeniably. Think about a water filter that has been running continuously for 60 years. It still works. But it does not work at the same speed. It does not clear things as cleanly. And it is far less forgiving of being overwhelmed. So now imagine taking a supplement, even a perfectly good, well-intentioned supplement, and putting it through that filter. It does not move through your system the way it did at 30. It does not clear in the same time frame. It lingers. And when something lingers in your system longer than expected, it does not just sit there patiently. It accumulates. It interacts. It compounds. Now add the next layer, because this is where it gets genuinely serious. The vast majority of people over 60 are taking at least one prescription medication. Many are taking 3, 4, 5 or more. Blood pressure medications, cholesterol drugs, thyroid medication, diabetes treatments, antidepressants. And every single one of those medications is being processed through the same liver pathways as your supplements. So now you have a system that is already working harder than it used to, processing more substances than it was ever designed to handle simultaneously, and competing for the same metabolic resources. Scientists call this metabolic competition. I want you to think of it as a traffic jam inside your own biology. Multiple substances, all trying to move through the same narrow lanes at the same time. And when that traffic jam happens, things back up. Levels rise higher than expected. Side effects appear. Interactions occur. And here is the most dangerous part of all of this. The symptoms are subtle. Fatigue, mild dizziness, brain fog, easy bruising, digestive changes, things that every single person over 60 is likely to chalk up to just getting older. And so the supplements continue, the medications continue, the traffic jam worsens, and nobody connects the dots. That is where the real harm happens, not in the dramatic moments, but in the quiet accumulation of small, unnoticed changes. Now let us talk about specific supplements, because this is where I want you to really pay attention. The first category that people almost never think about critically is fat-soluble vitamins. Vitamin A and vitamin E are the two biggest concerns here. And before you think, but I know I need those, you are right. Your body absolutely needs them. That is not the issue. The issue is what happens when you take more than your body needs, which is far easier to do than most people realize. Here is the critical distinction. There are two types of vitamins, water-soluble and fat-soluble. Water-soluble vitamins, like vitamin C and the B vitamins, can be flushed out of your body through urine when levels get too high. Your body has a natural release valve for excess. Fat-soluble vitamins do not work that way. Vitamin A and vitamin E are stored in your liver, in your fat tissue. Your body holds on to them, and when you keep taking them day after day, week after week, they accumulate slowly, without any obvious warning signs at first. Now, here is what that accumulation can do, and this genuinely surprises most people. Excess vitamin A, a vitamin millions of people take for skin health, immune support, and anti-aging, has been directly linked to reduced bone mineral density. Let that land for a moment. A supplement people are taking to protect their health may be quietly thinning the very bones they are trying to protect. And after 60, when fracture risk is already one of the most serious health concerns, this is not a minor issue. It is a critical one. Beyond bone density, excess vitamin A also stresses the liver, the very organ responsible for processing it. So you are taxing the system you most need to be functioning efficiently. And vitamin E, often taken for heart health and antioxidant protection, at high doses has been clearly associated with increased bleeding risk. If you are on any blood-thinning medication, even a baby aspirin, combining it with high-dose vitamin E is a combination that genuinely warrants concern, because separately, each may seem reasonable. Together, the bleeding risk compounds in ways most people never anticipate. But here's the part that should really make you think. Most people who are overloading on fat-soluble vitamins have no idea it is happening, because they are not taking megadose supplements intentionally. They are stacking without realizing it. A multivitamin that already contains vitamin A and vitamin E, plus a separate vitamin E capsule for heart health, plus fortified foods throughout the day. Each source seems small, harmless, but they add up to levels the body was never meant to handle through supplementation. I am going to come back to this idea of stacking because it is the central theme of everything I want you to walk away understanding today. But first, let us talk about iron. Iron is one of the most fascinating examples of how a supplement that was once necessary can become quietly dangerous when your needs change and your habits do not. For younger women, iron supplementation is often genuinely necessary. Menstrual cycles create regular iron loss, and deficiency is common. But after 60, for men and for women who have been through menopause, iron deficiency becomes significantly less common. Yet the habit of taking iron often continues. It was recommended years ago. It became part of the routine, and nobody questioned it. But excess iron is not benign. Inside your body, iron is chemically reactive. When levels exceed what your body actually needs, it triggers a process called oxidative stress. I want you to picture internal rust. Just as iron exposed to oxygen corrodes metal, excess iron in your body can oxidize your cells. It damages cell membranes. It damages proteins. In serious cases, it can damage DNA itself. And this oxidative process, running quietly in the background day after day, has been linked to accelerated cardiovascular disease, liver damage, and cognitive decline over time. People taking unnecessary iron often feel like they are doing something good for their energy. And that feeling, that sense of doing something positive, is exactly what makes it so easy to continue without questioning it. But the truth is, if your iron levels are already adequate and you are continuing to supplement, you may be unknowingly accelerating the very aging process you are trying to slow down. The solution is simple, but it requires one thing most people skip: testing. Not guesswork, not habit. Actual blood work that tells you what your levels are before you decide what to take. Now let us talk about calcium, because this one surprises people the most. Calcium has been one of the most recommended supplements for decades. Strong bones, strong life. The messaging is everywhere, and it is not entirely wrong. Your body genuinely needs calcium. But the story is far more complicated than most people have been told. When calcium comes from food, from dairy, from leafy greens, from nuts, it enters your system gradually. It is accompanied by other naturally occurring nutrients that help guide it where it needs to go. Your body processes it in a balanced, measured way. When you take a high-dose calcium supplement, you are delivering a concentrated amount all at once. And your body now faces a challenge. Where does it send all of this calcium? The answer should be your bones. But the biology of that process is not as simple as calcium in equal strong bones. Your body needs specific biological signals: adequate vitamin D, adequate vitamin K2, proper hormonal balance, to direct that calcium appropriately. And here is what the research has started to show, in ways that genuinely concern cardiologists. When the body cannot properly direct calcium to the bones, it may deposit in soft tissues instead. In your arteries. This process, called vascular calcification, leads to arterial stiffening, hardened, less flexible blood vessels. And that increases cardiovascular risk significantly. So now you have one of the most dramatic paradoxes in modern supplement culture. A pill taken specifically to protect bones, potentially compromising the heart. And most people taking calcium supplements every single day have never once heard this concern raised. The answer is not to abandon calcium. It is to understand that balance matters more than quantity, and that calcium without the right cofactors is an incomplete and potentially harmful approach. Now I want to spend a moment on herbal supplements, because this is where the word natural creates a genuinely dangerous false sense of security. Natural does not mean safe. Natural does not mean gentle. And natural absolutely does not mean free from drug interactions. Ginkgo biloba is widely taken for memory and cognitive support, but it has blood-thinning properties. For someone on warfarin, on aspirin, on any anticoagulant, adding ginkgo to that mix increases bleeding risk in ways that can be medically serious. St. John's wort is enormously popular for mood support and mild depression, but it is one of the most powerful inducers of liver enzymes known in the herbal world. What that means practically is this: it speeds up the metabolism of dozens of medications, reducing their concentration in your blood and therefore their effectiveness. It can interfere with antidepressants, heart medications, blood pressure drugs, and more. Someone taking St. John's wort alongside their heart medication may not be getting the therapeutic dose they think they are, and may never know it. Ginseng, marketed endlessly for energy and vitality, can alter both blood sugar levels and blood pressure, sometimes unpredictably, sometimes in ways that directly conflict with medications meant to control those exact same things. And here is the layer that makes all of this even more complicated. Herbal supplements are not regulated the way medications are. The potency of an herbal product can vary enormously from brand to brand, even batch to batch. Purity varies. The actual active ingredient content can vary. You may genuinely not be taking what you think you are taking, and if something goes wrong, it is almost impossible to trace it back to the supplement because nobody suspects the natural product on the shelf. Then there is the category of hormone and anti-aging supplements, testosterone boosters, DHEA, vitality formulas, and I want to be particularly direct here. The promises around these products are extraordinarily compelling, especially after 60, when many people feel real changes in energy, strength, and vitality. But hormones operate within some of the most tightly regulated systems in your entire body. They communicate with your heart, your brain, your metabolism, your prostate, your immune system. And when you introduce external compounds that mimic or stimulate hormonal activity, you are disrupting a system of extraordinary sensitivity and complexity. The clinical research behind most of these over-the-counter hormone-influencing supplements is, at best, limited. At worst, it is absent. Which means for all the promises on the label, what you are actually doing is experimenting on one of the most sensitive and consequential systems in your body. And the effects may not appear immediately. They may surface 6 months later, a year later, in ways that are nearly impossible to connect back to a supplement you started taking quietly on your own. Now, I want to bring all of this together because the individual supplements we have discussed are not even the biggest issue. The biggest issue is what happens when you combine them. This is what I call supplement stacking. And it is the most common and most dangerous pattern I see in people over 60 who are genuinely trying to do everything right. A multivitamin every morning, calcium for bone health, vitamin E for the heart, an herbal blend someone recommended, something for energy and focus, maybe extra B vitamins for fatigue, perhaps ginkgo for memory. Each individual decision sounds reasonable. Each one has a rationale. But your body does not process them separately. It receives them as one combined chemical load. One simultaneous demand on your liver, your kidneys, your enzymatic pathways, your cardiovascular system. And the cumulative effect of that combined load is something that no single supplement study, which tests one ingredient in isolation, can predict or account for. The interactions are real. The amplification of effects is real. The competing metabolic demands are real. So what do you actually do with all of this? The shift is from quantity to precision. After 60, the goal is not to cover all your bases with a broad collection of supplements. The goal is to take exactly what your body actually needs, confirmed through testing, not assumption, in doses that are appropriate for where your body is right now, with full awareness of every medication you are taking and how those medications interact with everything else. Start with food. Real, whole, nutrient-dense food remains the most powerful and safest way to deliver nutrients to your body. Not because it sounds old-fashioned, but because your body genuinely recognizes and processes nutrients from whole food more efficiently, more safely, and more completely than it does isolated compounds in capsule form. If testing reveals a genuine deficiency, then supplement, specifically, appropriately, under guidance. Not broadly, not in megadoses, not based on what your neighbor takes or what a label promises. Because your body after 60 is not simply weaker, it is more sensitive, more precisely tuned, more dependent on actual balance than on volume. And when you respect that sensitivity, when you stop throwing a broad net and start making precise, informed decisions, the results are genuinely different. Your body responds to being understood rather than overwhelmed. Here's what I want you to leave with today. The goal was never to take more supplements. The goal was always to build a body that functions well, that absorbs efficiently, regulates its own inflammation, maintains its internal balance without being artificially propped up by 20 different pills every morning. That is what real health looks like after 60. Not a longer supplement list, a smarter one. So before tomorrow morning, before you open that cabinet, I want you to ask yourself one question. Do you actually know that what you are taking is helping you? Not because the label said so, not because of habit, not because it felt like the right thing to do years ago, but because you have checked, because you have tested. Because someone who understands your full picture has looked at everything together and confirmed it is working for you, not against you. If you cannot answer yes to that question with confidence, that is your starting point. Share this with someone you care about, because this is the kind of conversation that could genuinely change someone's health trajectory. Subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. And remember the one thing that ties all of this together. After 60, the most dangerous things for your health are often the ones you trust the most. I will see you in the next one.